Alright, we're on Chapter 2, Section 2.6, Part 1. Find the number described. Number 1. The number 9 is 18% of what number? So we're looking for a number. So let's define our variable as n. That's what we're looking for. It says 9 is 18% of one number. Let me write this out like this. 9 is 18% of what number? All right, make it more like a sentence. The is the equal. So we have the 9. Now 18%, you need to change that to a decimal or a fraction. So you can write that as 0.18 or 18 hundredths reduced. For the moment I'm going to put 0.18. Of means you're going to multiply. I'm just going to put a little x. The number is n. So you could write 9 equals 0.18 times n, or 0.18, remember 18% means 18 hundredths. This is pre-algebra material, which is 9/50ths. So if you wrote it in fraction, as a fraction, it would be 9/50ths n. 0.18 times n also could be written as just 0.18 n. So this means of really just means multiply. Okay, so we're doing 0.18 times n or 9/50ths n. Alright, so it's up to you which you'd rather do. I'm really a fraction person, so I multiply both sides by the reciprocal 50/9. Nines cancel, and I get n is 50. Which is the number. I shouldn't really put a box around that. So n is 50. Now, if you did it this other way, you would divide both sides by, if you used the decimals, you could divide by 0.18 and use a calculator or do long division. Okay? So that also gives you n equals 50 after you solve it. So the answer is, what the number is, the number is 50. Now you want to think about this. Does it make sense to you? Is 18% of 50 9? Well, what's 10% of 50? 5. So 20% of 50 would be 10. So it seems reasonable that 9 is about 18% of 50. So you could sort of just use your common sense to see if it seems reasonable, and then to make sure you can check it by actually computing exactly what it says, 18% of 50. So the check is do 18% of 50. So I'm going to write that as 9/50ths times 50 because it's pretty easy to do, and it checks and you get 9. So that's a way you could check your answer. Here's another problem. What number is 12% of 75? So again, we're looking for a number. So we've got what number, so we're just going to write n for what number is equal 12%. All right, you could write 0.12 of means multiply, so times 75. So you can do it this way. You could do, get out a piece of paper, multiply it out, use a calculator, or you could write 12 hundredths as a fraction and reduce it, dividing the top and bottom by 4, which is 3/25ths, times 75, which is how I do it almost always because I never have a calculator handy and I'm used to doing things and using my brain, which I think is really helpful. Keep those skills up so you get the answer of 9. So the number is 9. You should have gotten the same answer if you did multiplication with the decimals, or if you used a calculator, of course. And then see if it makes sense. Well, what would 10% of 75 would be 7.5. So yeah, 12% seems reasonable. It's 9. It's just a little bit bigger. So you could sort of make sure, if you use common sense, that that seems reasonable. Okay, going on to 2.6 part 2, number 1. Some more puzzle or word problems. A store buys a purse, marks it up 25%, and then sells it for $40. What was the original cost of the purse? All right, so we have to define a variable. So since we're looking for the original cost of the purse, let's use a variable for the original cost. How about C? Original cost of purse. All right, so what happens? They buy a purse and then they mark it up 25%. All right, so they start off with how much the purse is. That's the original cost. And they mark it up. Means they're going to add something onto it before they sell it. And they mark it up 25%. So what that means is they do 25% of the original cost, which is 0.25C if you use decimals. So the original cost is C. They mark it up 25% and they sell it, which means that's going to add up to $40. That's what they're going to sell it for. Now, you've got a C plus 0.25C. Remember, you have to add coefficients and you don't see it, but there is a 1 in front of that C. So if I add these together, I've got to add 1 plus 0.25. So it's going to be 1.25C equals 40. And then you could divide both sides by 1.25. And then you can get out a calculator and write the answer. The other way to do it is with fractions. All right, since I like fractions so much, I'm going to show you what it looks like with fractions. I would have started off the same way, C plus, but instead of 0.25, I write it as 1/4, because that's the same thing as 25 hundredths. And that gives me 40. And I'm going to think of this as 4/4C plus 1/4C. So that gives me 5/4C equals 40. And I multiply by the reciprocal. So when I cancel, it's 8 times 4 is 32. Okay, so I was too lazy to get a calculator, and I was too lazy to do long division. So C is 32. Now, if you get out a calculator and you do 40 divided by 1.25, I believe you'll get 32. Now, let's see if this makes sense. The original cost should be less than $40, right? Because there was a markup. So if we started at $32 and you marked it up 25%, you would mark it up 1/4 of 32, which is $8. So 32 plus 8 does add up. So we could write all that down, sort of checking it. So first let's just write out the answer. The cost was $32. But let's sort of do a little check here. So if the original was 32, then the markup was 1/4 of 32, which was 8, and 32 plus 8 added up to the selling price of $40. So that's how you could go back and verify that this all makes sense. Of course, you could do 0.25 times 32 or get out a calculator. You're still going to get 8. But that's how I could check my answer.